Greetings, fellow survivors in the wilderness. Rhadamant here. Thank you for tuning in to the first episode of a new series of RimWorld called The Boundless Witch. If you would like to skip the series overview or the details about this series, please use YouTube chapters. The Boundless Witch is a story about a young girl who's born with both boundless energy and boundless potential. As she grew older, her unique abilities became a point of merciless ostracization from children in the community, and eventually even the adults who were supposed to raise and protect her. When she turned 13, they deemed her a cursed child, threw her into her transport pod, and blasted her off to her death. This is her story. The rules of this scenario: any person who joins must not be more than a year older than Sakura, the lead character, and must share her ideology. And she also wants to prove to herself that she can survive even the worst punishments of her community and won't move from her landing zone. The goals is to survive, make some friends, and have some pets. Pretty straightforward. The settings: it's Losing is Fun Randy Random, but with some slight modifications. Children age at 100% speed, not 400% speed. So she's a young child and remains young for a long time. Child raiders are turned on. It's one way that she might be able to actually add to her community. Unfortunately, that means like wounding a child soldier and then potentially converting them, but all the same. It is all completely default factions, default world gen, none of the sliders were moved or changed, and the world seed is boundless. The ideology is pretty simple, just animal personhood, and I'll show you the details about the ideology here. Just animal personhood. Sakura the witch thinks that animals should be treated kindly. You know, she's been bullied, she won't bully animals. Which means don't eat meat, don't hunt animals. She also doesn't really believe in, she's a little too young to understand and will not share a bed with others. You know, yuck, right? But that's it. Really simple ideology. You can see the mods over there. Most of them are pretty vanilla, right? You know, like Portraits of the Rim or Color-Coded Mood Bar. They don't really do very much. The ones that do much, I would say, are the Outland Toxic Forest, which is where we start in the scenario. And then Dub's Bad Hygiene. Those are the only ones that are going to significantly change the scenario in any real way. One last thing. This series is about a child. And although she might be brilliant and resilient, I will intentionally be making choices that aren't necessarily min-maxed or efficient in the name of role-playing. So don't expect this to be ruthlessly min-maxed, because that's not how I'd want to play this. Here is our starting tile and the world that we generated. So this is the Boundless World. And we were launched in a transport pod way up north into the Toxic Forest. The Toxic Forest is a strange one. It is almost completely full of pollution, except for these ancient petrified trees. And then the wildlife is different. There isn't a lot of variety in the wildlife right now, but for the moment, there's these like giant, mostly pacifist bugs called the Omu. As far as Sakura goes, our witch, she's a fast learner who's iron-willed, has body mastery. So yes, the body mastery is exactly why she was cursed. She never has to eat, drink water, sleep, right? She is essentially boundless energy. She has no comfort needs, no food needs, no sleep needs, and then perfect memory. She never forgets anything. And those conditions deemed her a curse upon her community, and that's why she was casted out. Her starting skills are as follows. She has no health conditions, although this is a naked brutality run, technically speaking, so she starts with nothing. And yeah, she's in a toxic forest, and it's basically freezing out, so a little rough. And let's get right to it. Now, she was casted out from a civil union, so she does have some basic research already, as you can see. So she doesn't start with nothing in terms of knowledge. She does have some knowledge. All right, right at the landing zone, we have got some heal root. Now, normally in the Toxic Forest, you wouldn't start with heal root. I will admit I used sort of dev mode to put these here, and it's because there's no telling whether you get hit by like a flu on day one, and the Toxic Forest doesn't have a naturally occurring heal root source. So, in order to try to avoid like any of the safe scumming that would definitely come about getting hit by like a flu or malaria or something immediately, I put some heal root down as just a way to like hedge our bets. All right, another thing. She doesn't need sleep, so sleep really doesn't need to be on the schedule. There's no point. But what I do need to do is to get shelter pretty quickly. And thank you all for the resubs. So, Gamer James and Variants and Dem Tacos and Manic Dark Prismo, Holodeck, Moxie, Soulblader, thank you. And I'll drink to that. Cheers. So I'm going to have to worry about the ambient temperature dropping too low for comfort, and then also standing in toxic tiles, which is basically everywhere. Because if I stand in toxic tiles for too long, I will die. I will get cancer, I will succumb to the elements and die. So there's a lot of things that are working against our dear witch, and we have to be very careful of that. All right, assignments. Hold 3 herbal meds at all times. I think that's pretty straightforward. And we're going to say a no drug policy, because when you aren't an adult, you succumb to drugs a lot more easily. Now, it's not that we can grow very much here, honestly, because everything's toxic. And then as far as the soil fertility goes, there's nowhere to grow anything, more or less. Right, there's this tiny little plot that I started on, and that's about it. So, yeah, a little rough. Now, if you're wondering about the Omu, they do eat raw meat, vegetables, corpses, seeds, animal products, live plants, meals, processed foods, liquor, and kibble. And if I grow anything, they are going to want to eat it. The thing is, of course, our witch here does not want to harm animals. So, like, I have to live amongst the Omu and not against the Omu, which is, you know, a little rough. And yeah, you might have expected me to have some sort of magic psycasting or something, but she is not that kind of witch. She is the kind of witch where, I mean, she does have some fantastic abilities, but she's more the kind of witch that would be burned at the stake in the witch trials and is otherwise a completely normal child. So she isn't evil, she isn't fantastic in that way. She's just an outcast. Manic Dark, thank you for the gifted subs. So I am digging into this. I'm going to call it a mountain, although it is not a mountain. It is a giant petrified tree. And the giant petrified tree, this Petra wood, is the base of an ancient colossal tree that has petrified into stone. Some wood can be obtained from mining it, but it's still very minimal. One thing is, it is not polluted in it. If you know anything about the map generation with pollution, if you mined in the mountains, it wouldn't be polluted. If you mined into the ore, it wouldn't be polluted. And likewise, if you mine into the Petra wood trees, it's not polluted. And on top of that, there is some soil fertility underneath. So it is a way to expand our growth zone eventually. Madsy, thank you for the resub too. So I'm digging into this Petra wood tree in order to make a simple shelter. Now, our protagonist here doesn't need to sleep, but a medical bed might not be a bad idea. But what we absolutely do need is some shelter for the ambient temperature, because if I don't handle that, if I don't have some sort of shelter, hypothermia will claim me well before raiders do. And, well, we don't want that. All right. I am going to go cut down this toxibor tree. So of the plants here, you're probably wondering, we have the toxibor trees, which are a tree that you can cut down for a reasonable amount of wood, more than witch wood, I would say. I mean, of course, the difficulty like ruins that a bit. Then we have these little giant tox palms, which likewise are very low yield. So you can cut them down, but they're much lower yield than the like more woody trees. And like that's about it. There's really not much else on this tile that does anything for me. So yeah. And as far as animals go, we've got a whole bunch of Almu. Now what we do have way down here is an ancient Exostrider midsection. But that comes with a caveat. In order to obtain a mech link, which isn't against the rules, there aren't really rules about that, I would need to destroy the midsection, and standing on a toxic tile to slowly punch the Exostrider midsection would kill me. The toxic buildup would kill me. So, while that might sound like a good idea, it is not a reasonable one, at least not yet. And yes, rip heal root, they are getting munched, I think. I think what I'm going to do is try to harvest them before they're munched, so I'll harvest them next. Because they do provide sustenance for the Omu. At some point, I probably will grow food for the wild animals to graze upon. But that's, you know, that's going to be a minute. Louie and Bloody Death, thank you for the cheers. All right, did we remove the roof over here? I don't think we did. So let's go do that. So I have some sunlight while I mine. Stop trying to run away, Sakura. Quit it. All right, so let's do an allowable zone. This is going to be the non-toxic zone. So I'm going to open up the overlay. I'm going to also include these other Petra trees, because eventually we can add these Petra trees to our, like, grow zone, safe zone, etc. So I'll add the Petra trees to the zone as well. And this is essentially where it is safe. So I'm going to rename this the Tox-Free Zone. And she is going to, at least for now, be restricted to the Tox-Free Zone. Because, yeah, there is not a lot of sense in succumbing to the elements this early on if I could help it. So, are they smart for taming? Yes. They have advanced trainability, which means they can guard, attack, rescue, and haul. They are a pack animal. And they would, of course, need to be ranched. They do have a roam interval. So, despite being able to haul, it's a little weird. Despite being able to haul, they will roam off the map. So it is a little tricky to be able to use them as haulers. But they can haul, technically speaking. And cheers. And there are other toxic animals that we might see sometime down the line. At this point, these are the only animals that generated here, but, you know, that will probably change with the seasons and over time. All right, next thing I want to do is build a little wooden door here. And then I'm going to update the home zone. So I'm going to clear the home zone entirely, and then say the home zone is essentially this. So I built a little, like, cave thing here. And the purpose of that is so that I can heat myself, because the ambient temperature will likely drop beyond what is survivable or comfortable. And I'm going to go ahead and queue up a roof everywhere. All right. Next step, let's go ahead and mine out some more terrain. Now, one of the witch's benefits is she never gets tired or has to sleep, which is a huge, huge boon for her and her survivability. So her community sent her deep into a toxic forest surrounded by mountains. So trying to, I mean, she wants to survive here, but even trying to physically leave, you would die in the trek. Basically, this is like she was marooned, and any normal human would have no ability to survive in this biome. But she is strangely unique. And they should have thought about a better punishment for someone like her, because this won't deter her. So her toxic buildup right now is 4.2%, really not that bad in the scheme of things. And one of the first things I want to build is a little bit of recreation, because the recreation types that I have available to me if I am zone restricted, are pretty limited, right? So, we have solitary and social recreation, and we can do solitary recreation, like, I guess, like staring at a wall, but that's not very interesting, especially not for a 13-year-old. So, what we're going to be moving towards is some recreation that, you know, makes more sense, i.e. horseshoe pins and chess and the like, so that she can preoccupy her very busy mind. So, let's get a horseshoe pin pit going. So get some decent recreation. Another thing that I think she'll want to do pretty early on is to sew some cotton so that she has clothing. Clothing is going to make a lot of difference, especially if she managed to get even just like a mask or something, you know, a face mask. It's going to be a big difference for the toxic buildup, because that will give her some environmental resistance. So sewing cotton in this area and trying to keep the cotton safe from the Omu are going to be a pretty decent goal. And then, of course, security, because she is a 13-year-old. She's not a jogger or anything like that. Any reasonable adult can easily outrun her, and she's very vulnerable to any raider that wants to do her in. So that's going to be yet another big push eventually for her physical security. You know, hierarchy of needs and all. And she's enjoying her little horseshoe pin. Alright, next step is to sew cotton. They threw out, they at least spare a coat for her. Nope. They spared a transport pod. I mean, they could have just, you know, drowned her or burnt her at the stake, like they used to. So, this is strangely nicer, but, like, not nice. Alright, grow zone. And this is going to be for cotton. Now, the grow seasons here are only 40 out of 60 days, and the soil fertility here sucks. So, the growing season is not year-round, and the soil fertility is pretty bad. And those two combinations make for pretty tricky growing. But that's just going to have to be something we overcome. It'd be great if you weren't standing on the toxic parts for this. There we go. Now, Zomu are very likely at like a... Oh, that's a terrible spot for that. Very likely attracted to the arable soil as a result of it being one of the only places that has like nutrients. So it's going to be a little tricky to keep the Omu from trying to consume the crops I sow. So we're going to need some sort of pasture fence. And I am going to line up our... Let's go ahead and unrestrict briefly. Line up this debris out of the way, plus the slag that she landed with, and then put her back in the tox-free zone. And I think it just, it might have gotten too cold for us to keep sowing. I'm also going to add a home zone to our starting farm area so that we keep it free of fires. Can they eat cotton? They're gonna eat, like, live crops, right? I mean, that's what they do. Live plants. So they will eat just about anything they can get their mandibles on. Or whatever it is. I don't know what they have in their face. So, unsightly environment. And some of that could be solved by, like, flooring, which I'm not necessarily against. And then, of course, she's not wearing clothing as she wants to. Alright, as far as work goes, let's do some work priorities. Firefight, patient, doctor, bed rest. Childcare basic. Handle. She doesn't need to cook, so I'm just going to take that off. Construct. Grow. Plant. She won't fish either. And it is getting colder, so I'm being warned that she needs warm clothing, which, yeah, right. Like, there's any sorts of clothing here. Mm-hmm. I'll be sure to get right on that, storyteller. And Aurora. Oh, that's nice, at least. And at the moment, it's, like, too cold to even sow. Hopefully it won't kill off the crops. Is the petrifuge flammable? It is not flammable. It is airtight. It is not paintable. And it cannot be smooth. It's technically a wood, so you don't smooth it. So it has very limited uses, and the only thing that we can do with it, honestly, is just dig it out. Which is fine. And as you can see, these guys are basically spawn camping my crops. Lovely. Alright, let's clean up this room. And maybe the next task I'll do is to try to get the Omu to move on. Try to get them to depart from my farm somewhere or another. It's easier said than done for sure. One method, of course, is to tame. But I don't have any food to tame them with. So we're going to have to figure that out. But I think, even before that, it's more reasonable for us to continue sowing the cotton and then to work on security. So at the moment, down here, the soil fertility is like too infertile to even support cotton. These sections are stony soil. So if you're wondering why I can't continue sowing cotton, it's because the stony soil here physically will not support it. So this is as big as the cotton field can go, despite the fact that there's still extra zone here. So in this extra zone, I am going to try to sow potatoes. Because that would give me the ability to tame critters. What is the fertility here? 63%? Yeah, that should be fine. For some reason or another, we're not even doing that. Alright, next up. I'm going to head eastward and start... I'm going to move one of these limestone chunks so it's not physically in my way. And we're going to start getting some steel. So what is their taming aggro attempt? I mean, it's kind of moot until I have actual food to do it, right? But, as you can see, they don't aggravate. They have a 0 chance. So taming them is entirely reasonable, but attacking them is a really bad idea. Because it's a coin flip whether they're going to maul you to death or not. Alright, so the new tox-free zone, I'm going to also add this steel site here. The first one we have to stand in the toxins to get, but everything thereafter will be just fine. Alright, the other thing I would like to do is to work on security. So I'm going to add that to the priority in just a moment. Improve security. So in order to improve security, I think I'm actually going to go out that way, because there's a marsh out this way. So the terrain affordance will be a little bit harder to build anything there. Yeah, she wants to swim in a toxic pond. Maybe someday she'll actually have some water to swim in, but or a bath or something. I like how I'm being warned of low food. It's like, low food, I don't think is her concern. She doesn't know what food is. Damarin, thank you for the resub. Cheers. And once her toxic fallout, well, maybe not at night while it's cold and dark. The other thing I can start to do is to seek out any full-grown trees that are out here and cut them down for extra wood. Because having extra fuel source is going to be pretty important as well for long-term survival. And I think she just leveled up in mining. Good. Yep, she did. Once she learns about comfort food, she'll love it. Yeah, possibly. So I'm going to stick a door. Actually, I might just nest the door. It's fine. We're going to get a door right there. And the intention is to add spike traps as part of the entryway, so that I have a means to defend myself if anyone comes to bother me. Because I don't think an unarmed, naked 13-year-old stands much of a chance against, you know, the types of visitors that you tend to get in RimWorld. Alright, so let's continue mining the steel until we have at least a few spike traps. And then, of course, she does not believe in harming animals, so I have to be very careful about how I use the spike traps, because I don't want to be spiking the Omu either. However, if I did spike the Omu, it would give me a chance to potentially tend them, which gives a tame chance, but that's not something I want to do purposefully, at least. Hey, Sloan, thank you for the resub too. A pollux tree sprouting. Ooh, that's going to be very useful. It's very far away, though. So pollux trees, for those that don't know, absorb pollution over time. So there will be a natural removal of pollution in this area, which means if I choose to clean pollution here, I can relocate the pollution up near the pollux tree and get rid of it. Slowly, but, you know, over time, I'll be able to get rid of it. Building that one first, huh? Sure, whatever. We need to yoink it? Well, I don't have mods for that. I can't yoink it. We'll have to physically travel over there and dump the pollution down. Because, you know, there is no uprooting that thing. But so far, she's not had any mental breaks, and she's doing alright. I've dropped toxic buildup to 0. So it wouldn't necessarily be a bad idea to seek out some toxibore trees for extra wood. Because getting a research bench and a stonecutter table would be 2 very good things to invest in. But the primary, you know, thing I want most is obviously security. Physical security comes before just about everything else, because she doesn't have any food or comfort needs, so bedding and shelter is kind of meh. I do want a bed, though. Not to sleep in, of course, but to recover if I'm sick. Because just because you have body mastery doesn't mean you're immune to diseases. Alright, let's cut this toxibore tree down, both of them. And then haul the wood back in. And I would also like to tile up this area, and eventually probably improve it with, like, stone. Because I can't repair petra wood, so it's a shelter that cannot be essentially maintained. Why can't we get the tree? You can't get Pollux trees without mods. They are not movable. Going for a walk. That's a very boring walk, but, you know, you do you. Alright, refilling some recreation. So things I want would be a simple research bench, which we can drop here. And then a regular bed. And then a stone cutter. And it's going to be a minute before we have, like, the means to get all those things. But just know that they're in the wings. So I'm going to say, for security's sake, the stone cutter is going to be the most important. So for us to get a stone cutter, we're going to need 75 wood. Her toxic buildup is only 3.1%. So let's go after another toxibore tree. One that's hopefully fully grown. So this one's fully grown. Unrestrictor, cut that down. Cut the stump and bring it in. And slowly this room is going to be less and less ugly if we keep investing in it. Them's the hope. Radlocker, thank you for the resub. Alright, and that one too. Sure. Now the smaller ones, the giant tox palms, are they're technically harvestable, but like as far as the effort for resource yield, they're just not worth it. Radlocker, thank you for the cheer. So we'll have to come over here and get some more steel. There's also going to be a lack of pollution here, which and it's stone underneath, which means I could also transport my pollution over there. Which is not unreasonable. So we're sitting at 9.3%. I would like to try to keep it under 10%. Above 20 and the symptoms get worse. So even going into the teens is okay in a pinch. But ideally, yeah, keeping our pollution, our toxic buildup to single digits would be best. Just for like safety. Because even at initial, I'm moving at 415, meaning that anyone that isn't like prosthetic legged or like frail can run me down. Which is a little scary of a prospect. Oh, a botch. Yeah, that happens when you're not very good at it. So it looks like this isn't going to support potatoes either. What is potatoes' minimum fertility requirement? 70%? And it's 63%. So if it rained, we could plant potatoes there. With Dub's bed hygiene, rain would add fertility. Or if we irrigate it, it's potentially potato-y. But not unless both of those or either one of those conditions are met. And irrigating is a little outside the cards right now. You know, we're not about to run like a sprinkler system while we're like naked and freezing to death. Toxibore trees. Any others that are decently grown around us? 91, but we have to go through a marsh for that one. Here's one. Because the stonecutter table failed. Our construction is now 6. Okay, let's go ahead and cut limestone blocks. They seem to be plentiful around here, and drop them on the ground when we're done. And that's going to remove a lot of the chunk stuff around us. So the intention here is to wall up our farm, and then to somehow try to encourage the Omo to leave the vicinity. You can actually, with a bow, shoot the walls to scare animals, which would not in any way be against the rules of this series. Scaring animals is not harming them, so that would be allowed. And I plan on doing an absolute bare minimum wall around the farm. So try to get protect our farm is going to be the next priority. And I'm building walls and not fences, because walls will also keep raiders out, whereas fences only keep, like, dumb animals that can't climb fences out. So I'd rather have protection against a wider variety of threats. So we're going to want, at some point, a crafting spot, which allows us to add a short bow. And I have 31 wood, which is almost exactly what I need for it. But there's no point in spooking these animals clear of the area until I actually have a full perimeter. Because they'll just come right back in and potentially eat my stuff. So let's pause that for a minute. And keep making walls. And we're going to need 50 wood for that section as well. Oh, an almost self-tamed. Well, hey. That's something. And a solar flare. Yeah, I care not. There is no sun. I think one thing that would help me out a lot is this. So zone, remove area, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 2 tox packs full of pollution. Getting rid of the pollution between me and where my farm is, and then also potentially sowing crops here in this area. Seems like a double bonus. And then I can move the tox packs here where they can pollute where the steel is being excavated. Well, let's go ahead and name the Omu, I guess. I got a free pet, so let's name it. Raffle timer's above my head. I don't have I have absolutely nothing to be able to feed this thing. Which is a bit of an issue. And then, of course, I don't have, like, a corral or anything for it either. Which I'm gonna need. But just things to do. Alright, let's clean this pollution so I stop getting toxic buildup just going to and from my farm. Okay, there we go. So it's a lot less polluted. So the zone for the tox-free zone will now include these new sections. And then I'm going to create a dump stockpile here of tox packs. Or toxic waste. hello, Thrumbos. I don't think it's going to be fun for you to be here. Also, please don't eat my trees. I'm sure you're going to. I don't have a lot of trees. It'd be a little sad if you ate them. Alright, at this point, we need the wood in order to complete the doors. So I'm going to need to go cut down some more trees. And I wouldn't mind some extra steel to be able to afford the research bench at some point. I already have enough steel, just enough steel for it, but I'd like to have a little bit more of a stockpile of steel in case of, like, tripped traps or whatever. Oh, wait, hold up. Alright, at the moment, the only Omu that is within the zone is our Omu. So I'm gonna, try to capitalize on this to get the doors in. And to get the last wall in. I don't have the resources at the moment, but I'm gonna rush to try to do it. And cheers. No, it wandered back in. So maybe preventing one of the walls from being built and then waiting until it just moves outside and then completing the wall to force it outside, because the other one I can rope, but the original one I cannot. You are not my pet. Got it. Thank you for tuning in to RimWorld, the Boundless Witch, which originally streamed live on Twitch as a miniseries marathon. If you have any feedback or questions for me, let me know in the comments below. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you'd like to join my online gaming community on Discord, Rhadamant.com has a link to it, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching. Special thank you to my Twitch subscribers, Patreon patrons, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow witches and warlocks.